Part 150. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 1506. However, Yanj does not know how to define the so-called happiness. In this plane, her task is simple, and it is almost effortless to complete. She also met the that was in her heart and knew it was all right. Are you happy? She felt that it should be happy, but these happiness seemed to have nothing to do with Guyan. Yan Ji slightly raised his eyes, looked at Guyan, and asked him, "How about you? Are you happy?" Guyan looked at her and smiled, "Happy." The corners of his eyes were wrinkled, and when he laughed, his eyes were almost lost. But his eyes seemed to be shone like a broken diamond. Even if he squinted, even if his face was wrinkled, others would still be infected by the joy and happiness that he sent from the bottom of his heart. Yan Ji looked at him with a smile, a little hesitant. Human life is particularly short. 100 years is the limit. It can be said that they have lived for thousands of years. The so-called happiness of people is really dull in her eyes. At best, it seemed like a languid and comfortable yawn when basking in the sun. For Guyan's long life, she actually remembered it in an instant. In this life, I am very happy. She was happy because she met her old friend and knew that the chicken was well. But when he saw this, his eyes lit up immediately, and after a pause, he asked him softly, "Guji, do you have anything else to say?" She did not say that she was fortunate in her life. Guyan's eyes were sad for a moment. He squeezed her hand tightly, looked at her, and asked, "Are you a demon?" The corners of his lips were still tilted, and he shouted a smile of expectancy that was drowned. As he said, he seemed perfect and happy in his life. Yan Ji looked at him like this, staring at a colorful bubble. Can't help but want to reach out and poke to see what it would be if the bubble burst. When she heard his question, she slightly got close to him, stared at his expression, and nodded, "I'm a demon. In this body, the girl named Lucian actually passed away a long time ago. You've always liked her, not me. Therefore, the happiness you feel is actually an illusion. Will you be happy with all this?" Yan Ji stared at Guyan, trying to see despair, pain, or surprise from his face. Curiously, he laughed when he heard the words, "I know." He murmured, "I know. I've always liked you. Actually, you are her too. You can enter her body. You and her are one." He took her hand, put it in front of his lips, kissed and murmured, "Say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for you a lot, but still, hoping to bring you happiness." Yan Song raised an eyebrow and stared at him. But this man, behind his words, closed his eyes and lost his breath. Yan shook it several times before breaking his hand. She leaned down and stared at the man who had lost his breath. "Who is this horse?" Then an intimate speech. "Which of her old lovers is on the horse again?" Yanj is considered to be a white-headed husband and wife together with Guyan. Until she died, she did not encounter the devouring beast on this plane. Therefore, it is impossible to know whether Guyan is a mighty person. However, these were actually not so important to her. The greatest gain in this life is probably the chicken. Knowing that chicks are safe is more important than everything. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 1507. The Little Yellow Bird Kingdom was soon established. A place was opened in Xiangji Garden. Almost half of the villa garden in Xiangji Garden was occupied. All have become its bird kingdom. On the day when it was completed, Xiao Huang stood on the high platform, oh loudly. This is its country, this is its world. From then on, it wants to collect the most beautiful females, and it wants its own king soil, all beautiful and various females. What is Shirojiro a day? It spoils these females all the time. It will also broadcast live, Let those humans who are stupid and weak chicken look at how mighty its birds are. Sooner or later, its children and grandchildren will be around the world, and it will let its blood dominate the world. With squinting eyes, more and more kinds of birds are being sent to their own land. Xiao Huang Huang is particularly happy at home. It counts how many each day, and is also looking at which one looks good. It likes long legs and long necks. However, because of its short body and long legs and long necks, it can't catch it, so it can only wrong itself to lower the standard. Xiao Huang Huang's first time has not been dedicated. For a sexual revelry, birds must be here. After all, there is only one male on its king soil, and he is not in a hurry. So during this time, it gets along with these birds. It's more like a king visiting his people. Raising her neck and raising her tail every day, she bathed in the gaze of those female birds. Nothing makes it feel happier than this look. Xiao Huang Huang, who has her head upright, doesn't even pay much attention to the live broadcast, just looks at the characteristics of these harem females brightly. But it didn't take long for it to discover that this chicken was not the happiness it imagined. This so-called king is not really king of the mountain. After the number of birds finally stopped growing, Xiao Huang Huang took a bath and combed his feathers smoothly and beautifully, and shivered into the king's soil. I used to go sightseeing through fences. This is the first time it has been in close contact with its females. It has accumulated energy for this purpose, and thinks that it has raised its body to the peak in these days, and it is no problem to lay down all the females in one breath. Just entering their own land, a pile of birds rushed over and surrounded Xiao Huang Huang. Those females are so cruel, seeing them one after another is like a hungry wolf. Xiao Huang Huang couldn't even explain for the first time. It's like a booty, snatched by these females, pecked. Had it not been for the rescue of Gugu in time, it would probably have died on its own land. So horrible. The country walked around, and its proud yellow hair was pecked out. It almost became bald. Bald. Damn, it hates hairless creatures the most, but one day its hair is gone. As a result, Xiao Huang Huang has a psychological shadow, and is no longer willing to visit his own land. He is holding his tail that has no fur and is about to suffer from hesitation. Because of the depression of his own chicken son, Gu Min has not been thinking about going to work recently. Every day thinking of the law wants to make the chicken son happy. Compared with Gu Yan, Yan Ji is more calm. She had guessed that the chicken would have such a day sooner or later. To her surprise, the day came quickly. She looked at Xiao Huang Huang, who was almost bald, but her heart was actually very sad. After all, her baldness was mocked by this guy for years. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1508. After returning to the system space, Yanj did not enter his chaotic space in time. It's squinting, sensing the dense layers of glass that make up the system space. It was a long time before she opened her eyes and returned to the chaotic space. This time the plane did not encounter the devouring beast. Naturally, there is no soul source that devours the heavenly beast and the mighty. Therefore, her own body, the rising trend can hardly be seen. But to her surprise, another heart hung from her green tree. This time the heart is red. How could there be another heart? As soon as she reached out, the heart was in her hands. The heart in my hand is still beating, and I can even feel that this is a living heart. The heart wilted as soon as her consciousness penetrated. The speed visible to the naked eye withered into dead objects. But still bright red. Yanj stunned, but did not throw it away. Instead, he moved it back to his own branch with a little movement. Flashed, left the chaotic space, and re-entered the plane. The song that entered the plane, before her eyes opened, her lips narrowed, and the next moment a roll, instinctively raised her hand, a wooden thorn appeared from her hand and shot at the opposite person. The room was dark, and I didn't know where the song had been dropped, but it fell down and fell on her. She was in a defensive posture and was immediately knocked down by those guys. The man on the opposite side didn't rush forward. He played with the iron chain in his hand and stared at the dark shadow of Yan Ji smirking with a grin. Shush, isn't it? You are also a smart person. If you are with me, I can assure you, or else when our boss comes, you will be the last one you like most. Yanj hasn't received any information about the plane yet, but even so, she instinctively feels that the man opposite is not a good thing. Seemingly silent, she was actually looking at this body. This body has powers similar to wood. With this power, she guessed that this should be an eschatological plane. It is not the first time she has entered the eschatological plane. Therefore, it is clear that in the eschatology, if wood-based abilities appear to ordinary people, they are actually a bit of a chicken rib, and their power is not so great. On the opposite side, the iron chain in his hand whistled and slammed in circles. Yanj guessed that the man's ability was to control iron and the like. The words do not speak, the chain in the man's hand slammed, and the next moment seemed to have life. The iron chain rushed towards the word song, I have no patience to say so much to you. Rebellion, obediently, please wait for me. I will cover you in the future. Wooden abilities don't really do much for ordinary people. It's more like chicken ribs, except for planting flowers and grass, it has no lethality. But songs are different. She is a tree. Even the chick said that she was a tree with countless weapons. Before the iron chain got tangled with the words, it was pulled by the numerous tree roots that had been drilled out of the man's body. The man's eyes widened, he didn't even breathe without calling. He didn't figure out why he had so many roots in his body until he died. Obviously, this woman's wood power is a wasteful, non-wastable power. How could that be? How could be? After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1509. Yanj stood up. She walked to the man who had fallen to the ground, stood high, and looked at the man's face, which was almost distorted because of the pain, and her toes crossed the man's head and went out. The room was dark, and the light was not much better when we went out. This seems to be a small base where the sky is blocked. Yan Ji went all the way and did not see anyone else. But I found green plants everywhere, and some small potted plants. This should be planted by the original owner. After all, most of these people in the last days thought that woody abilities could only plant flowers and grass. Come between the so-called old convention that the man said earlier. Yanj did not find a place to receive the plot in this plane. She paced in this small base, watching the flowers and plants planted by the original owner, while also adjusting her internal interest. This body's ability is still a little weak today. The ability to support her in one hit has already overdrawn her body. She needs to adjust her breath as soon as possible to recover her condition. It didn't take long for those associates in the man's mouth to come. A group of men, Yan Ji at a glance, 12 people. Each one is very individual. Of course, with her body's current ability, it is really impossible to scan out what abilities these people have at a glance. Her eyes fell on the man who walked last. The man wore a gray suit. Compared to other more sloppy outfits, his clothes were extremely clean and tidy, and his clothes and pants seemed to be ironed without any wrinkles. And this man is still almost bald. Regardless of men and women, once they are bald, they are no different from ugliness. But this man, although a sloppy head, looks very individual because of his profound features. Probably noticed Yanj's eyes, he looked away from the flowers and plants in the room and fell on Yanj. One of these guys is a dog nose. He probably smelled bloody, his face sank, and he walked away from Yanj and walked to the back room. The man who was previously put on the ground by numerous tree roots can no longer be regarded as a man at this moment. At best, it's a flower pot. Because he had grown a lot of red branches, and even his head was no exception. These branches rose quickly, and some even grew buds, which seemed to be blooming soon. The man entering the door was nicknamed Dog 3. He didn't expect to see such a weird scene and was taken aback by being scared. Several companions came in behind him. Look, isn't it the degree? Yes, the clothes he wears today, and the iron circles in his hands. Huh, who killed it? So cruel. Others approached, trying to touch the buds that had grown on the body, and wanted to see if they were true or false. What kind of ghosts are these red and bright stuff? The voice of Yan Song came behind him. Don't touch it, there is no guarantee of poison. The eyes of everyone fell on Yan Ji's body. In fact, when everyone came in, their eyes were already attracted by the words. In this last age, most women are gray-faced, as are men. Everyone is living a wolf howling, one by one is life or death or betrayal, so it is difficult to hide the vicissitudes in his eyes. But in front of this woman, she was wearing a turquoise skirt, and she was standing there pretty. Faithfulness and kindness, at a glance, make people's eyes bright. The whole simple dark room is bright and bright because of her. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1510. The girl's facial features are clean and nothing at all like this post-apocalyptic woman. It reminds everyone of those innocent little girls next door. But today is not a world of peace. This time, everyone fell on Yan Ji. From head to foot. It's not like looking at people, it's like looking at an item. Someone said, "Boss, if you don't, you don't. I'm going to sleep with her tonight. I can give you a few crystal nuclei today." Sex, the other person rolled his eyes, stepped closer to Yanj, and asked, "You companion, you killed?" Yanj leaned against the door, looking weak and boneless, like a small green flower swaying in the wind. Even the person who asked this said did not believe that Yanj would be the murderer. After all, the strength of teammates, they cannot be more clear, even if women have power in front of them, but their teammates, but step out from the dead pile. They didn't believe that Yanj could kill their companions. Yan Ji glanced at him, turned his head, and looked at the inch-headed man who had stood at the door since he entered the door. Obviously the man didn't say a word from beginning to end, not even a superfluous expression. He didn't even have the slightest bit of blood, but the song had keen senses, and he could feel that this man was the hardest and most powerful presence in the team. "Fancy our boss," the guy named Guzan smiled and raised his chin at his boss. "That's why," Yanj said, "why are your women so superficial? Our boss is just a little bit better. He is the most boring and can't give you any benefits. I want to live well you re among us. Picking one is smart. That is to say, in terms of women's good growth, Gujin will give such a big truth-like advice." Yan Ji slightly bowed his head and smiled with his lips closed. A strand of hair slipped, and she reached out and pinched her ears. Her random movement was to keep a few men's eyes straight. Someone couldn't bear it anymore and asked Yanj, "Hey, what do you think, our brother, which one do you like?" Yan Ji looked up, but did not look at the people, but looked at their boss. "What if I do not choose?" Her voice was lazy, and she was a little brittle and tender. The listener's heart was so numb, he couldn't wait to rub her in her arms and let her shout a few more times. The so-called boss, he looked up and stared at Yanj. Yan Ji's eyes met him, only to realize that the person's eyes were not black or amber, but covered with a touch of gold. She smiled, her face unchanged, and did not avoid his gazing eyes. "Follow us and give you 3 meals a day." Glanced at the plants in this shed. "What you want to plant can also provide you with conditions. We will protect you." When he was here, he asked her, "How?" "Words, you didn't say a price." Inch smiled. It seems that at this moment, finally gave Yanj a little appreciation. He raised his hand and pointed to the teammates behind the song. My teammates, one by one, are real men who will not leave their women when they are in crisis. Follow us. Every night after that, you can designate them as you like. One of them will accompany you to sleep. It was a great honor to be appointed by her. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1511. Those guys are also faithful at this time. Girls, go out and inquire. There are several bases in this circle, and there is no longer a team that will protect women like our Thunder team. Follow us, you do not have to worry about it. And not starving or freezing. Yeah, the base next door treats women like animals. Yanj's face was still a gentle expression with a slight smile. I see, she said softly. Follow you, I need to be a prostitute. Girls take your own side too seriously, Go-san called. Now in this world, we all have things today and no tomorrow. You are willing to be happy in time, and you can be happy with each other. How can you be a prostitute? You are in our hearts is the goddess. Yanj looked at him. She smiled slightly, seemingly weak and simple, but those eyes were inexplicable. Fortunately, after Yanj gave the dog Sanyan a glance, he set his eyes on the face of the inch-headed man again. If I don't agree. No one thought she would not agree. This is probably the best condition given to all women encountered by the team. It is a woman who agrees with surprise. After all, being able to get into the Thunder means no longer having to leave the country, let alone live a life of fear. Questioning like this raised many people's eyebrows in surprise. However, I feel that a woman like her may not be acquainted with the world, or may be protected too well, and she does not understand what is happening outside. As a result, everyone thought her words were a little naive, and some people couldn't help laughing. Someone asked the song with a smile, Girl, have you lived here and never been outside? Yanj looked down. How? Girl, who was protecting you before? The song did not answer, but stared at the person who spoke. The man continued, the person who protects you is dead. Without him, if you stay here alone, it won't be long before this place will be ravaged by zombies. It's the same. There are second and third level zombies around. Once these zombies come in, your body will be torn into countless pieces by those zombies and eaten by them in one mouth. After listening to him, Yanj smiled and said, Thank you for reminding me. She continued, saying, Thank you for your kindness, but I don't plan to leave here or go to others. The man with an inch head frowned, not satisfied with the conditions I proposed. He glanced at his teammate's almost drooling Baba appearance, adding, Talk about your own requirements. Yan Song chuckled, I won't leave here. Go-san barked, You don't want to wait for your man to come back. Today there is a wave of zombies passing through City B. Many countless mortals have died. Your gimmick must be among them. I suggest you be smart. Yanj went to the swing stand in the middle of the hall and sat up, slowly shaking, I won't go with you, please help me. Several men looked at each other. I don't think this woman is taking Nao Xiao, only that she is innocent and terrible. They looked at each other and even thought about taking the woman out of the bathroom. After all, she was so beautiful, she died in the mouth of a zombie, and it was too aggressive. An inch of eyes glanced from the slightly floating skirt corner of Yan Ji, our teammate, did you kill? The beauty is wrong, and everyone almost forgets it. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1512. Everyone was quiet when they heard the words, and stared at Yanj with their eyes brushed. These people even made a vigilant preparation to activate their abilities at any time. After all, with their understanding, the boss never said much about it. Yan Ji turned his head and glanced at everyone, before staring at Inch. Glamorous, soft, and charming. Yeah, she said, he wanted me to wait for him and let me follow him later. He also wanted to tie me with an iron chain, so I killed him. As soon as this word came out, everyone's eyes fixed on her changed. They are also scattered, forming a semi-enveloping trend towards the words. Their dead companion has special powers and can control all iron and metal. Therefore, the force value is very high. Not to mention the power-wise, even a few third-level zombies can't hurt him. But now, their partner was killed by such a weak-looking girl. It's incredible, and because of this, they dare not care at all. Yan Ji tilted his head slightly, looking towards the Inch. You want to kill me to avenge your teammates? He nodded his head, but soon he stared at Yan Ji's face and said, if you would like to join us, I can let everyone skip this matter. Join you? Promise what you just said. Although her voice was still smiling, she could hear a bit of irony with an inch of her head. If your power is strong, we can also list you as a team member and work with everyone. Of course, if you change your mind later and take the initiative to sleep with the team members, it is also possible. I refuse. Yan Ji sighed softly, I don't want to kill zombies, it's too dirty. The few men she had provoked to this day laughed, and her vigilance was not as severe as it was just now. The Inch head has never had such patience and a woman nonsense. Obviously, these nonsense today are destined to become nonsense. He did not respond to the words. With a slight movement of his fingers, a flash of lightning suddenly appeared on top of Yanj's head, and he broke into Yanj with a thunder. Yanj is a wood power and a tree in itself. In fact, lightning and thunder are all her nemesis. But now she has a pair of N and can't show cowardice on her face. The swing frame suddenly swayed high, and she avoided the lightning. The plants around the room soared wildly at this moment, like living creatures, and the men were wrapped around in an instant. Those men, one by one, also have imagination. They are all a way of life from the last days. Everyone is not vegetarian. But now, they have nothing to resist. The pain in the limbs will burst. It's as if a tree root has taken root in the body and is about to break through flesh and escape. They did not dare to move, for fear of this movement, the so-called roots in their bodies would pierce their bodies. To this day, they finally know how their little friend died. Yanj's swing is getting higher and higher, she smiled, and slowly said to the Inch, you hacked me, your teammates will become fertilizer for flowers and plants. Human body is more nutritious than soil, especially several of them have abilities, and they have also smoked many nuclei. They are the favorite fertilizers for flowers and trees. Each person has different plants based on their abilities, and I do know how well your teammates can grow. What flowers? After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 1513. An inch of lightning is just above Yan Ji's head. Like the display hanging there, it didn't move for a long time. The golden light in Kunto's eyes seemed to fade, and his eyes were deep like bottomless water ponds, staring at Yanj without blinking. He said, you are very talented to cultivate wood abilities to this level. Song, thank you for your compliment. She frowned and smiled happily, I like these plants very much, from the bottom of your heart, you take your time, chop a little bit of my flowers and plants, and I will let your teammates be buried. Inch gave up the idea of cutting all the plants and trees wrapped around his teammates into dregs. He asked the words, how did you let them go? Yanj asked, I let them go, will you let me go? The Inch was silent for a moment, but still nodded, the deal. Song, I don't believe your words. Buzzcut. He was probably angry, his eyebrows were slightly wrinkled, and the whole man's momentum was a bit stronger. Let's do this, Yanj said with a smile, otherwise I'll join you, but I won't do the dirty and tired work of sleeping. Nima, if you want to join, why did you just refuse? Not only is the mood of the inch a bit subtle, even his teammates feel that this woman is shameless. Don't say anything good, you have to fight. In fact, everyone knows that this is the woman's down Ma'i. I didn't even think about an inch, so I promised, okay. Such a big killer is also good to stay in the team, there are always times when it comes in handy. If she doesn't worry about it, she can also use some beautiful men. Anyway, there are many kinds of men in the base. Where is your base? Yanj asked. In the county seat of County A. Seeing that Song did not take back the flowers and branches that wrapped the teammates, squinting, can you let them go now? Yes, it can, Yanj said, but I'm out of power, and I can't let go of them for a while. Come, boss, you help me and sit on this, I'm almost dizzy. The boss yelled particularly sweetly. The smile on her face was also gentle and sweet. Buzz cut. In view of the woman's face and figure, he put up. A few steps passed, he was going to reach out to help Yanj's waist. Yanj's hands were directly around his neck, hanging on him. Is there a crystal nucleus? She added, the one that was cleaned. Her soft body almost stuck to him. For a while, he remembered the 4 words called Wengxiang Nephrite that he had read in the book. There was no smell or sweaty smell, and she had a clean smell of vegetation. Very clean and clean, it is not such a clean taste. But even so, he didn't faint his e. The corners of his lips were raised, and he said, yes, what do you exchange for? He already knew that she was hooking him. However, if he slept with her, he didn't seem to be so offensive. Yanj lay on his chest and looked up at him with a smile, a pot of green plants for a crystal nucleus. Buzzcut. Does this woman really think she is a fairy? Even the green plants she raised can become a mystery? No change. Although Yanj was a little disappointed, she still smiled, I'm sorry, but I respect your opinion. But she did not loosen the man's neck. I can't move the boss, so let me take care of it for a while. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Weipang. Chapter 1514. Inch, of course mind. Just don't do it, it's shameless. He froze and didn't speak. Yanj only assumed that he had closed his eyes and regarded him as a personal cushion. Inch bosses. Although the illusion that the trees are about to break through the flesh is gone, they are still wrapped in the stems of flowers and plants. The woman said she could not destroy her flowers. Naturally, they did not dare to really destroy it. After all, the pain that the roots had just torn out was too terrible, causing them to have psychological shadows now. For fear of a bad one, he will be used as a fattener like his companion in the back room. They stared at their boss. But the boss stood proudly and stood there enjoying the beauty's affection and care, not caring about them. Someone couldn't help but reminded carefully, boss, don't lose sight of it, we maintain this posture, and it is also very painful. The dissatisfaction of several teammates became higher and higher, all of which were envy and jealousy, and the inch-headed man frowned slightly. He is even more upset than his teammates. So the next moment, he put his hand on the waist of Yanj and wanted to push away the song. Yanj released him first. 2 steps back, the words stand firm, smiled and tilted their heads, and waved greetings to everyone, hello fellows, I will be your teammate in the future. I am timid and weak, and you have to take good care of me in the future. A bunch of men with big flowers. For a moment the air was quiet. Fortunately, everyone's survival is very strong. Although MMP is in his heart, he still smiled and responded diligently, certainly. It must be protected, you, the panda of us all. Girl panda, You haven't introduced yourself to everyone. Yanj, my name is Yanj. She added, the word that didn't match the death, sing the beautiful song. Everyone killed without a word. Thinking of their tragic companion who was a fat man in the small room inside, suddenly I was glad that there was wood, at least, everyone was alive. Yanj wants to continue to rest. But no one wants to waste time here, after all, in case the tide of zombies comes. They are outnumbered and may turn into zombies. However, the prerequisite for Yanji to release these people is to have a crystal nucleus. The inch-headed man was bare, and a crystal nucleus was unwilling to come out. These people who are can only raise money. One person put together a crystal nucleus, the meat hurts. Too few Yanji look disgusted, even if it is a newcomer's ceremony, it cannot be so shabby. Is this shabby? Everyone's painful mouths were pumping straight, but there was no way. Another person took out a piece. Fortunately, there are many people and strength, 2 for 1 person, and it is not a small number to put together. Yanj held these nuclei in her hands, but instantly, the energy in the nuclei was absorbed by her. The hard nucleus, which cannot be cut off by fire or sharp instruments, was absorbed by her and turned into a dusty powder. As Yanj let go, these powders fluttered to the ground. Everyone. The crystal nucleus is very small, which is the size of the apricot nucleus. The size of the crystal nucleus is comparable to the peach nucleus. And the energy contained in the crystal nucleus is also different. There are wind system, water system, fire system. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1515. So when you eat crystal nuclei, you have to be symptomatic. But now, this woman, the palm of her hand was so lightly squeezed, all the energy in those crystal nuclei was absorbed by her. Is this really a wood-powered person with no lethality? Even their bosses Inch, at this moment looking at Yanji, brought a bit of vigilant scrutiny. Yanj washed his hands, and this untied everyone. Inch said to her, take it away and get everything you need, but it's best not to take too much. The base has daily necessities. Yanj, let's go, there's nothing left to do. I just said that all the flowers and plants in this house are her treasures. The woman who died when she moved the flowers and plants now wants to abandon them and leave. Really ruthless. Everyone was strange and did not speak. They were also immersed in the picture that Yanj had just absorbed the nucleus, and they were thinking about how she absorbed it, and whether they could do it. After all, the burning sensation of the crystal nuclei in the stomach is uncomfortable, and sometimes it cuts its throat. Most importantly, eating crystal nuclei has a negative effect. If you can absorb it in another way, it will make everyone excited. Because of this, these people are all thinking about how to get closer to Yanj. The dog turned 3 eyes, and immediately got close to Yanj and said, don't you move these flowers, Yanj. If you want to move, I will help you, I have storage space. Yanj smiled slightly at him, thank you, but you don't need it. Her eyes were watery, extremely bright, and extremely soft. The whole person gives people a kind of wind and beautiful spring and autumn flowers. Even if she knew she was awesome, everyone couldn't help but feel the impetuous heart in her heart. Everyone did not expect that the Dog 3 meeting would be one step ahead. Everyone would look at each other, and all of them immediately gathered beside Yanj. You said me a word, very cordial and enthusiastic, clamoring to help Yanj get things. This kind of diligence is like an old mother of Yanj. Yanji glanced at the Inch boss who wasn't talking at the door, thank you for your kindness, but you don't need to. She had already taken the lead in going out, and everyone had to follow him and go out together. At the door, Yanj stopped and waited for everyone to go out. She raised her hand to close the door. The inch-headed man stood not far from her side. When Yanj closed, he swept across the slowly closing door, his eyes narrowed slightly. The green flowers and plants everywhere in the gate are gone. No green at all, he was extremely sure and certain, that was not his illusion. The door closed quickly, and by the time he wanted to make a second look, the door was completely closed. They drove a pickup truck. Go-san drove. If the boss usually came out, the boss was sitting in the co-pilot position. Something went wrong today. Yan Ji ignored the crowd and opened the door of the co-pilot, and sat up. Everyone would certainly not remind the song. Gazes looked at his boss. Fortunately, they have a large number of old men, and did not care about this woman, and jumped into the trunk of the pickup first. Everyone got in the car one after another. Because of the tide of zombies yesterday, two zombies were still visible along the way. Fortunately, they are crowded. As long as they are not hordes of zombies, everyone will not look at them.